When you love your work, you
Yeah.
never work another day in your life.
There you go.
You know, and you're working in your purpose, because when we are just going to work and doing a quote unquote job, we're probably not doing what God has for us, because happiness and fulfillment in your work is part of what the plan is for everybody's life, to enjoy their lot in life.
The Buzz on Better Business podcast, positioning your business as one that is trustworthy, is something that we all know is important. But what does it actually take to accomplish this? Join your BBB each month as we unveil the world of local accredited businesses who have it mastered and have positioned themselves as ethical leaders in our Acadiana marketplace. All right, thank you for joining us for this second episode of the Buzz on Better Business podcast. I'm President and CEO of your local BBB here in Acadiana. And on this episode, I'm visiting with Miss Betsy Richard of Betsy Richard Consulting. She's going to share a little bit about her background, which is very unique, about a book that's coming out you might not know about yet, and just a lot about consulting and what it takes to run a trustworthy business. Thank you for joining us. All right. Thank you for joining us for our second episode of the Buzz on Better Business podcast presented by your Better Business Bureau here in Acadiana. Joining us today, Betsy Richard of Betsy Richard Business Consulting, an accredited business board member with BBB, longtime supporter of BBB as well. Thank you for joining us, Betsy.
Oh, thank you for having me, Chris.
Absolutely. Looking forward to spending, I guess, almost an hour together, learning a little bit more about you, who Betsy is, where you're from, your background, and then how you got into business consulting. And I know you do some spiritual guidance and stuff as well. So I guess just jumping right in, Betsy, how are you and who is Betsy? Where's Betsy from?
Well, thank you so much. I'm from Lafayette, grew up here, born and raised here, even bought the house that I grew up in and lived there for a while again. And I have I'm the oldest of 6 siblings. I have 6 of us all together. And went to UL.
Okay.
When I was getting ready to get into my third year at UL, I didn't know what I wanted to be, so I took a personality test.
Okay.
And it told me that I should be a florist or a priest. And I did not go to church back then, nor did I enjoy doing crafts work. So I thought, this does not work. But I went ahead and went into merchandising and ended up being a salesperson and a recruiter for Mary Kay Cosmetics.
I got you.
And traveled the country and traveled overseas and trained and taught ethics, recruiting, sales, and enjoyed myself so much while raising my family. I was married to Carl Richard for 35 years, and we have 3 children and 6 grandchildren.
Oh,
So very exciting. So that's kind of where I came from. I started Mary Kay Cosmetics business when I was 23, right out of college, and just kept moving with it and was able to drive a pink Cadillac for 30 years.
So you did well in Mary Kay then.
I did well.
Yeah.
I was a hard worker, still am, and love people. And I think that's very important in the kind of work that I do now.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, we get to have a lot of conversations with you at the Better Business Bureau as a board member. So your happiness and stuff definitely resonates. And I know amongst the staff and all of us, we appreciate your support of us. And a couple good things that you shared there. So one, I want to ask about your childhood home. So you were able to purchase that as you got older. Do you still own that?
No, I actually sold it 2 years ago, next month. 2 years ago. But I did have an Airbnb there for 5.5 years, which this Tuesday, today's Thursday, I received 10 of the first books for approval because I wrote a book about my experiences and how I prayed for the strangers that came through my home.
Yeah, so that situation's unique, right? You have a lot of different people coming in, probably all different backgrounds, walks of life. So a great experience. Do you want to share a little bit about what went into the book and the experiences, I guess?
Well, the book is named, and it's not out yet, but it'll be blasted out.
We know it's coming.
It's called Cajun Gumbo for the Soul. My Airbnb
That's a cool name.
experience. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. I thought it would be catchy, and it's about praying for strangers on their journeys.
Wow.
So, and it just has to do a lot with the different types of people that came through, whether it was a nurse or a family or a mother and a daughter, because people traveled from all over the world to this awesome city that we have here.
Oh, man.
And just to plug for BBB, the Better Business Bureau adds to that. We're always working to improve the community, and being accredited with the Better Business Bureau says you are stepping up to the plate to have the integrity that represents Lafayette, Louisiana. And so the integrity that I held in that Airbnb with the great people that came through helped me to realize how good people really are in the world. And it also gave me different ideas for my business, Betsy Richard Consulting.
That's really neat. You mentioned even back in doing the Mary Kay, things when you first started, the ethics and how that went into a lot of what you enjoyed doing, and wasn't quite floral, wasn't yet spiritual, but at the same time, you were able to figure out a career path that worked in ethics and integrity. And tell me a little bit about why that's so important to you.
Well, one of my core values is helping people do the best and the right thing, and take the best and the right next step, and having unhindered honesty. So when you're working with me, it's important to know that I'm going to shoot you straight. And I think that's integrity right there. You want to you don't want to fluff things up. You don't want to make people think it's lesser or more than it is. And so that's part of the integrity. Just doing the right next thing, being honest, being the best that I can be. So when I opened up, when I was with Mary Kay again I'm still part of the company.
Okay.
But in 2016, things started changing in my life. I was having a lot of back issues. I was almost in a wheelchair at that time, and trying to figure out what I was going to do. I felt I had worked real hard to get to a certain point in Mary Kay, and it didn't get there where I wanted to go. Like for 3 years, I tried to put the pieces in place. So I went up to see a business coach. I'm a business coach and consultant. It's always important to have one if you are one. And so I went up to Tulsa to meet with a Dr. Nathan Baxter and his wife, and spent 3 days with them. And when I left there, he called me. We had 6 calls after the meeting. He called me and he said, "Are you supposed to be a national sales director with Mary Kay? Are you supposed to retire with Mary Kay?" I said, "Well, that's what all my friends are doing. That's what we're doing. We're all going together." And he said, "Yeah, but is that the right next step for you?" And he gave me some questions to answer. And as I read through the questions and contemplated everything, I'm like, I'm not supposed to finish my career off this way. But what am I supposed to do?
Right.
So a friend of mine reached out to me and introduced me to her boss, who was not where he wanted to be in his career. And I asked him, I said, "I'll work for you for a couple of months. If I don't think I can do you any harm, but if I do you some good, great. Pay me something if you want. If not, we'll just be friends. But let's just see. I'm trying to test the water here." So after 6 weeks of working with him, he said, "Do you have a contract I can fill out?" And he gave me a check.
Wow.
He said, "You need to come talk to this other group of people in the financial and insurance industry so that they can know that this is available to them, because we all open our small businesses and have vision, but we don't all know how to ground it. And that's what you're bringing to the table for me: organization, accountability, communication." So I went and spoke to that group, and a few people hired me, and then a realtor friend of mine said, "We need you." And so I went to speak to that group, and a couple of people hired me, and then I decided to brand myself and go out to Betsy Richard Consulting and pull all the tools from my Mary Kay career into the local market, because I really especially now, have a passion, Chris, to keep small businesses thriving.
Sure.
So many people want to open them. So many people fail at them. But if you can get at the very beginning, or when they get jaded, because it will happen,
right?
Or even when they're trying to sunset their business and organize it so that somebody can buy it, whatever the case is, let's get the business model in place so that there's accountability, communication, and organization.
That's such great information. You know, at the Better Business Bureau, obviously we deal with so many businesses, so many small businesses too. Just here in Acadiana, in the 7 parishes that we cover, we have right at 1,100 accredited businesses. The majority of those are small businesses. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times you'll run across an owner, manager, a business that was started out of just necessity for that family or for that person. You know, I've been doing this particular trade my whole life, and I wanted to start my own business. And I'm great at doing this, excuse me, but I'm not necessarily great at managing a business. I don't have the background of managing a business, how to manage my financials, how to coordinate a strategic plan with the staff that I have to hire. You know, we know how important staff is for any organization. Yeah. So I can see the need for so many small businesses to have somebody come in and help maybe put, flags on what should be important and help center, like you're mentioning, kind of ground everything that's in place to not only grow the business, but make it more efficient, more successful. And in the end, once a business is able to do that, they're they're not only more valuable for themselves, but also their community.
Yes, that's so true. And then growing together as a stronger community. You know, eyes from the outside is a really important thing that I don't know that everybody sees the value in it. But when I can come in and look at the bigger picture and see things, it's a lot better for the organization to get that information.
Sure.
So I do a lot of that. The other piece, as you mentioned, getting a staff together, is the people part, is the communication part. And so, for instance, I work with groups. I'm working with a group right now that has 8 employees, and they're not all getting along real well. They're all great people. They all have a passion for what they do, but they're not in sync. And so I can go in with the different certifications I have in assessing, and with the experience I've had. Sometimes I say it's wisdom meets technology, you know. And with all of that coming to the table, I can help to support the internal communication so that people call it the soft skills, but I'm telling you, that's the harder skill, is to learn how to communicate and be vulnerable and transparent in the workplace so that you can understand and accept everybody and work better with them and collaborate.
I can see that. I saw something on LinkedIn recently that was very similar. It kind of listed, the quote unquote traditional soft skills and talking about different generations and what skills they really excelled in. And the point of the post was, can we quit calling these soft skills? They're actually the hardest, not only to maintain, but just to come to an understanding with. So you mentioned, from an eagle-eyes view, a lot of times it's easier to see. And I can see that a lot within an organization, a lot of, and with many things, when you're too close to it, it's a little bit too hard to see everything for what it is. So a third party, as you would be, as a consulting organization, coming in saying, this is what I'm seeing, a lot of times can help put perspective into the situation. And maybe there's some issues that need to be worked on that weren't priorly realized. And maybe there's some things that people were thinking was an issue that's really not. That's really not a big deal.
That's exactly right. I've had people approach me that want my services, and they're like, but I'm so scared to find out what's going on.
Oh,
because
for sure.
They're scared to unearth
of course,
some of the things. But it's just like, and I guess, I believe in ontological health, having a business coach, having a counselor when you need one, a therapist, having a physical coach, to keep you in physical shape, a financial person, all those different pieces. And I believe that I'm not a counselor, but a lot of times when you go in, it's like that in a way, because you're opening up, you're peeling back the layers, and that's not easy to do.
Yeah.
I tell people, get comfortable being uncomfortable.
Yeah, there you go. That's a good one.
Yeah, because you will be uncomfortable, but the beauty of where you come out on the other end, you can't put a price tag on that. You cannot put a price tag on that.
And I can tell you, you see, a shift, I think, in our workforce. And the shift in our workforce that I see, and this is, I guess, a personal opinion, are people that want to work for a good organization that they're also going to be personally developed. So at the Better Business Bureau, that's something we try to strive for. But I think as an organization, when you're investing that time in your organization, not only are you benefiting your organization, but you're benefiting the people that work within your organization, which I guess can start this cyclic effect of now these people are dedicated to this organization. They, you don't have as much employee turnover. And I'm just, I guess, guessing some of those options, but what would you say in regards to that?
Well, people want to be a part of a family.
Right. And
we all come from, and this could be some kind of heavy podcast we're doing here a little bit. But,
let's make it heavy.
We all come from dysfunctional families.
Yeah.
Okay. Some of us won't admit it. Some of us are in denial, but it's so true. And when you can get that family field where you work.
Sure.
Again, you can't put a price tag on that. But to do that, it takes a lot of work because people come from so many different places. Right. So putting that together takes time. It's a process, and it changes. And to what you were saying about having a good staff, people, and they found a lot of this out during COVID, people want to be a part of something big, but they want to know what their place is in it. Mm-hmm. Excuse me, they want to know what their place is in it. They don't have to be in charge. They just want to know that they are giving and that their giving counts. They want to know that the leader knows them.
Yeah.
Okay, so if the leader's not going around and building a relationship with them,
sure, it's
not going to work because they're going to stay with that kind of leader, somebody that's going to take them seriously, find out what their needs are, see what they can do for them. So there's really a lot of responsibility on the leader of a business. And, as I was telling you earlier, Chris, the Better Business Bureau, you're doing a fine job leading them. And that's so important because we represent, as the Better Business Bureau, again, the integrity of our community. So keep up the good work, and I'm just so proud to be a part of the BBB, and it's really enhanced my business a lot. People will go to check me out before they hire me, and when I'm accredited, when they see that, there's no question. They're like, oh yeah, we're going to go with her.
Well, a couple things, first and foremost, thank you so much for the kind words. We're always striving to create an even stronger team that's more efficient with better processes. And we've continued to grow. I've been at BBB almost 4.5 years now. Mm. We've continued to grow during that time where, as a nonprofit, anything that we're able to bring in financially is going right back into the community. And the better we are internally, the better we can serve our community. So thank you so much for that. Thank you for being a part of BBB, being one of our board members. This, I think, your third year.
My pleasure.
Year on
yes,
our board.
I'll be. Yes.
Yeah, third year with Betsy Richard Business Consulting. And then from there, you're mentioning that employees want, I guess, to be able to know their place within an organization. They want to know, what am I held accountable for? One of my personal, I guess, thought processes is an employee wants to know what they're held accountable for. They want to have, obviously, the resources, and that's incumbent upon management and leaders to give the resources that they need to be successful. But then there's a part of it that I think sometimes gets overlooked, that people want to be held accountable. They want to know that they're being successful. Nobody wants to not do a good job. And when you really try, I guess, work that into the fabric of an organization, that this is what I'm doing, this is my resources, and I've got to do it because I know they're holding me accountable, that proves to be successful. But you mentioned accreditation and how much it's helped your business. And I would say that it's beneficial for any business, obviously, to have been vetted through what we do at the BBB. But for an organization like yours, as a person coming in, and you mentioned how hard it is for an organization to peel back the layers and really expose maybe what some of the issues are, the internal operations of the organization, they absolutely need to know that they can trust the person they're doing that with. So I would see how accreditation would obviously help that. And your track record just personally, you're from here, you're doing great things, and you're very involved in our community, very involved in nonprofits. So tell us a little bit about your commitment to service, because you haven't mentioned that phrase, commitment to service. But what I see when I look at Betsy is somebody that's committed to serving.
Well, thank you so much, Chris. Before we go there, I wanted to mention that you were talking about there has to be trust.
Yeah.
So I do, I'm certified with DISC, which is a Wiley brand, and that is helps with personalities and understanding your own, understanding others, understand how you relate to each other, understanding where the roadblocks could be. And also, I'm certified with Patrick Lencioni's, he wrote a book, he's a best-selling author, called The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team.
Okay.
And Wiley partnered with him to produce the 5 cohesive behaviors of a team. And so I'm certified to help that. And the first behavior is trust.
There you go.
Once you have trust, then you can have productive conflict, so that you can state what you want to say, even though at the end it might not be what people decide on.
Right.
You feel comfortable enough to tell everybody how you feel.
Sure.
And what your opinion is on the certain project or whatever.
Okay.
Then it can move up to commitment. Everybody's committed. When you trust, you can have commitment. When you trust, you can have accountability. And the leader doesn't have to hold everybody accountable. Everybody else holds each other accountable. And then that moves up to having the best results when you have all of those in the pyramid. So back to the service part, because I'm not raising children anymore, and I have more time on my hands and I am single, it does free me up to be able to put my ears and my eyes, my ears up and my eyes out to see where the need is. And so I'm able to volunteer more. I mean, wherever I see something and I have the time and I feel prompted to go do that, I'll go to Parish Proud. I'll go to Moncus Park. I'll go to ACA, downtown. Whatever it is, my heart is with Catholic Charities of Acadiana, and the proceeds of my book will go to Catholic Charities of Acadiana.
Which is FoodNet as well, right? Does FoodNet put on by
They're
Catholic
all
Charities?
connected,
Okay.
Second Heart, they're all connected.
Gotcha.
But St. Joseph's Diner, the Emily House, those different places. So, and I'm committed with my business manager, whoever that is at the time. Now I have a wonderful young business manager who brings the tech to the wisdom,
Hey, we know where our weaknesses are, right?
That's right, that's right. And so we go once a month to serve wherever there's a need,
That's so neat that you said that. A couple of things. I know you're out in the community because you're one of the board members that I run into the most. My wife and I went for a walk at Moncus Park. We saw Betsy. My daughter and I went get boba at one of the local places. We saw Betsy there. So I know you're out and about. Volunteering in the community, though, our impact initiative that we do at the Better Business Bureau very similarly, as you know, our staff volunteers one day out of the month in the community. We've done St. Joseph's, we've packed food with Catholic Charities, and we've done so many other things. But we have a staff that, as you mentioned, trust, committed to what we do at BBB. And the feel-good, I guess, moment, or the feel-good thought of not only do I get to come to work and help the community, because everything we do, we're dealing with businesses and consumers all day long. But I also get to take one day out and get paid but to be at work and go volunteer in the community. And that's resonated really well. We started that a couple years ago. And we're very proud of that. Service is at the center of what we do as well. But mentioning trust and how unique that is within an organization, that once trust is established, the first step, as you mentioned, then people are holding each other accountable. and it's so closely related to how the BBB was started. In the early, started in 1912. It's a very, very old organization, and we've done a really good job over the past, I'd say 5 to 10 years, trying to get re-spun up with current age and technology. As you mentioned, it's accelerating so fast. When you have a brand that's been around for so long, there's got to be some changes over time to get up to speed. And we're doing throughout the BBB system. We've been very successful in that. But the goal of what we do, just in a nutshell, is, a trustworthy marketplace where buyers and sellers trust each other and everything's great. Unfortunately, we know that's not always the case, which is, why all of the program services and everything that we provide are free to consumers. We want to be a resource that's usable, that's accessible, technologically advanced as we are these days. But when BBB was started, it was brought on by Coca-Cola, a sales manager who said, we really need to be telling the truth in our advertising. He found some other business owners and said, look, I'm going to tell the truth. You do the same thing. We'll hold each other accountable. They started in 1912 what was known as the National Vigilance Committee, which is nowadays known as the Better Business Bureau.
Wow.
And as you know, as a board member, we still kind of embody that same mantra of the governing authority of our local BBB, of the 7 parishes that we cover, is our board of directors, which is made up of local owners, managers of businesses that are accredited here in our area. So we're still kind of being overseen by our local businesses. And then we have the International Association who kind of monitors, the brand and that kind of thing. But it's really the same thing, and it all starts with trust.
It does. It all starts with trust. And, I'm a true believer. Of course, if you look on the spectrum of DISC, I'm kind of a dominant and influencing.
Okay.
And so I am a true believer in justice. So I always point to that, because when things are not, when people turn their head to something that's not right and they don't do anything about it, I'm just the opposite. When there's something not right, I'm going to go there and see what we can do, or get the person that can change it. And that can be a big job. And so there's a lot of things I'm thinking later on in my life when I'm retired, which I don't know if I ever will. I love this work. It's so fulfilling to see all the aha moments and to see people start working together. But maybe I'll be on the bandwagon with something that can make a big change, not just in the community, but nationwide. Who knows?
Yeah. Big dreams, right?
Yeah. No, why not?
And I've clearly, very far from retirement myself, but have thought the same thing, that will I ever really retire? Will I just kind of shift, from, what I'm doing to something that's a little less time consuming to be able to quote unquote retire, but not be uninvolved.
Right.
And still, the feel good of making a difference, making a change. But how important, and I want to ask you your opinion on this, how important is it to have employment or have a job that is fulfilling versus just kind of checking the box, yeah, I have a job?
Well, when you love your work, you never work another day in your life.
There you go.
And you're working in your purpose. Because when we are just going to work and doing a quote-unquote job, we're probably not doing what God has for us, because happiness and fulfillment in your work is part of what the plan is for everybody's life, to enjoy their lot in life. And so I would say for people that are not happy where they are, to take a chance, to step out on faith, because that's what's scary. To do, to trust that I really feel I'm supposed to go here, but I'm hesitant, to really think about that. I mean, take the steps of, praying about it, writing the pros and cons down, waiting for an answer, getting resources, And so I think that if I could tell everybody in the whole wide world to enjoy your work, or look elsewhere if you're not, there is something. And it doesn't have to be about money. Right. It doesn't have. It's about who we are and what we're supposed to be in this world.
Yeah, and I think that's a good, mature way to look at the situation. It seems as though sometimes there's a pursuit of money, or financial gain in a lot of ways, when the money is not nearly as important when you're happy, right? And when you love what you're doing each day. And I know, even from our local office, here in Lafayette, with the pandemic, just really I don't want to say changed, but I guess in a way it did. It just really shifted a lot of pieces of what it's like in the workplace and people working from home. And then we know there's BBB locations throughout, there's 98 different BBBs throughout the U.S., Canada, and Mexico, that some have not even gone back in the office. They fully adapted to an at-home work environment. And locally, we love being in the office. We love being accessible to our Acadiana consumers. Our 7 parishes are, all within driving distance. There's some BBBs that cover whole states that are maybe not as accessible in person. So we love being open. We love, staff loves coming to the office, but there's some people that, love working from home. So what is your opinion, I guess, from a business consulting standpoint? Because I guess the management of that changes quite a bit.
Yeah, it does. There's so many different personalities and situations, and personally, because I like people, I like to be, where there's people.
Right.
And so that's why a lot of people have gone to not really working from home, but going to a coffee shop and working.
Yeah.
They're around people. So it's hard to give my opinion on it because every industry is different and their needs are different. So, you look at the insurance industry, people need to be in the office. Somebody needs to be there in case there's somebody walk in, or in the financial industry,
Yeah.
All the different industries are different. So I would say that talking to your employees and really finding out what their needs are and what they would want to do, and there may be something like, going into the office a couple of days a week, or some people work from home or not. And that requires a lot of trust.
Of course.
When people are working from home. So for the people working at home to realize that somebody's paying them for their time and to not take advantage of that, because what a gift to do what you want to do and when you want to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. If you don't mind, Betsy, I want to talk about your book a little bit.
Okay. All right.
It's coming out. It's not out yet, but I feel that it's so unique that you were able to have an Airbnb where I would imagine a lot of people were maybe from out of town that would stay at it. So you're meeting so many, walks of life. And I'll share a quick story real quick. We were in New Orleans. It might have been a year or two ago, at the French market there. And there was a guy with a table selling his book, and just stopped and talked to him. It's always a unique situation. And he, little bit different aspect, I guess, but I forgot what it's called. Like train jumping, I guess. He would ride the train to a city,
wow.
and then he'd spend a couple days in that city. He'd meet people, and then he'd jump on the train again. So clearly a different situation, but the goal, he did this for a year. The goal of it was to be able to write a book about the experiences of all the people he met, the differences and changes and things going on around the country. So if you don't mind sharing a little bit, share a little bit about that experience, what it was like, but then what it was like for you. What was it like for you?
Well, when my daughter, Molly, was the one that said, Mom, you ought to open an Airbnb. And I didn't know what it was.
Yeah.
Okay. This was I think in 2015 or 14, something like that. And then she's the one that said, Mom, you ought to open a business consultant business. Nobody knows how to run their businesses.
We got to get Molly on the show. We should have brought her too.
Well, she's done a lot of podcasts in New Orleans.
Okay.
She's a project manager at Ochsner there. But anyway, she told me about the Airbnb. So I had my business manager research it, and I talked to my former husband, and I said, what do you think? He said, well, let's open it. If it doesn't work, we'll close it. Well, after 3 or 4 couples, it was actually older couples that were retired that came in first, which was surprising to me. I thought it was just the younger crowd that was using Airbnb. And they enjoyed it. And I said, what do you think? Are you okay with this? And he said, you are having so much fun. You're like on vacation when these people come in. And I thought about it. I'm like, I am. I was so excited to just find out about their lives and, let them be, but give them a safe, comfortable place. Some people even felt like they were, at a retreat home, because it was quiet and peaceful and everything. And so from there, I just kept it, and we'd only take 5-star people with 5 or 7 5 stars, nobody less. And so we had always good people that came in. And I don't know. I just look forward to it. Like, I never liked to do clothes, and I didn't mind washing sheets. It was like, where did this come from?
Yeah.
And I had a little young lady from the neighborhood that would come after school. She got off at high school, and she'd come and she'd clean for me, and she'd do all of that. And it just became a part of my life. I could leave when I wanted to because I knew I had good people there. A lot of my neighbors utilized me when they'd have family coming in that would overflow from their home. So it was very fulfilling and very, I just, it was a way I could pray for them, because at that time I was struggling with my back and struggling with my marriage. And I had this bright spot in my life, so to speak, with all these different people from Cameroon. I had never heard of Cameroon. I one time had some Germans that came, a couple with their young two children that were very well behaved, and a couple from France that came, and we all came down to have breakfast on the back porch, and the Germans and French were talking in all three languages, and they ended up knowing some of the same people in Germany and France. I mean, you can't put a price tag on experiences like that.
Of course,
it's so cool. And I've had people from all over the world, and the festivals they book. When they leave the festival, they just book again for the next year,
Yeah.
So
I could see that.
I can't even. It was a beautiful experience. And when I sold my family home, Chris, I mourned the Airbnb more than the home.
Wow. Yeah, it's those experiences. And you mentioned you like being around people. You're somebody that would rather be in the office, potentially at the coffee shop, just to run into somebody. So that, if we hadn't made the point yet, these are people that were staying in your home.
Yes.
Not a separate place that you owned that they stayed at. They basically lived with you in your home while they were utilizing the property. So I think that's such a unique perspective and a unique experience that you were able to, didn't even know what Airbnb was, but daughter's recommendation, you said, you know what, let me step out on faith probably and see how this goes.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, and that stepping out on faith is always a hard thing to do. But when you're looking, and back to kind of my business, when you're knowing that, because people ask me, Betsy, who are you looking for to support in your work? Somebody that knows they need help and they're willing to do something about it.
There you go.
It's not just any business, but you have to know that you need help, and you have to be willing to, there's so much value in this kind of thing, Some of the points that I work with people on is to really build solid foundations internally so they can catapult growth. I'm really good at empowering and implementing best ideas, making sure, and co-creating and holding accountable. So, that, I think, just having those kind of values in myself helped me in all, with Mary Kay. That's where I established a lot of it with the Airbnb, with Betsy Richard Consulting. Because implementing and co-creating and holding accountable is so important.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I can see through some organizations I've been involved with in the past and different roles that I've had, a lot of times some of the best ideas come from the person you would never think had that idea, was not even in a position to have that idea. So I think the open forum concept, the true, I guess, teamwork aspect of allowing people a safe place to be comfortable enough to even share their idea.
That's exactly right.
Because if they're, afraid of, people thinking their idea is not a great one, more than they are wanting to share it, a lot of times those things just stay hidden.
It's true. And if they feel comfortable enough, Chris, to open up and share it without worrying about what anybody else says. I was in a meeting with the C-suite of an organization, and we went around at the end of the meeting. It was a quarterly. I do quarterlies, and I'm really good at establishing team meetings and leader meetings to make them efficient and effective. But we went around at the end saying, what's the biggest takeaway from today? And two of them said, I could say what I wanted, and I didn't worry about anybody rolling their eyes, because nobody does that. They all listened, and they took in what I had, whether they agreed with it or not.
Right.
And that's huge. That's huge.
I can see that. And then I guess creating the culture that, like, as you mentioned, that fosters that.
That fosters that. So having the core values, what do you want to foster? One of my organizations is very structured on their core values, whether it's integrity, accountability, service, whatever it is. But they're not just taking anybody. And they were going through a agency to help employ, and it had been 2 months, and they still hadn't found anybody, and the company's like, dang, y'all are picky. And they said, yeah, it's if they don't have all of these core values, we can't bring them in, because we are looking for this culture, and they have to have it in them. So that's huge, is to be able to do everything you can around your core values. And just to give you an idea of what core values are, for instance, mine are, and when I talk to companies, clear and unhindered honesty. So they know they're going to get that from me. I want to add value. So I'm checking, am I adding value? Am I, doing that? Accountability with compassion, because some of us struggle with accountability. So I want to compassionately support them in that, and helping people take the best and the right next step. Right. So those are my core values, but BBB has a different core value, and different people have theirs. And to be able to wrap your business, everything around that, are we going to do it? Does it align with our core values? Right. Is so valuable.
Yeah, absolutely. You mentioned, core values having purpose, knowing that you're making a difference. And I know you stay busy, because dealing with you through BBB, a lot of times it's, Betsy, Betsy wants to do this. Let me check my calendar, because it's very thick on there. But what should people expect from Betsy Richard Consulting moving forward? If somebody's interested, they say, you know what, I'm watching this. I think we could benefit from some of this. What does that look like once they approach you to maybe getting set up and on the path to consulting?
Okay, so what that looks like is, first of all, meeting, so that I can ask questions and find out whether it is something I can help them with or not, and getting to know them and their heart and what they're looking for. Then if we feel it's a match, we start working together. There's no legal signature, we sign a contract, but if it doesn't work out in 30 days or, 2 years, you want to end it, you can. Then we become aware of everything internally. I start putting things together, and we discuss everything with the leadership team. We work individually with the team itself, the leaders in the team together. And Chris, at that point, we have to figure out what to do. There's no cookie cutter mold.
Yeah, absolutely.
So to execute, everybody's execution looks different. There's a different timing. There's a different type. And there's a different way. And so I just kind of become a chameleon in those situations to be able to be part of the team. So, for instance, yesterday I had a meeting, and when I walked in, I said, they have hired me to be part of your team. So I had on their outfit, their uniform.
Oh, all right.
Because I am part
of the team. Talk about diving in. There you go.
Yeah, but they have to realize I'm not an outsider at that point. I'm here for them. That's how important it is. It's no place else I want to be but right there with them that day. So once we do execution and we see the growth, which I have had clients that have had up to 57% growth in production and in profits.
Wow.
In 1 year, the first year of working with them. And then we evaluate. We come back and evaluate, and we circle back. And it's a continual accountability most of the time, once a month, once a quarter, so that we don't get off track with all the time and resources we spent putting the plan together.
Yeah, sure.
It's easy to get off track. So at least every 30, 60, or 90 days is a touch point, depending on the organization and the leaders.
Yeah. Well, that's neat. I didn't realize, the uniform thing. That seems like a really good way. And I mean, even just a psychological way for you to say, you know what, I'm here with y'all. I'm part of this team. I'm not coming in to, reprimand and point fingers. I'm here to be part of this team and really help, you guys grow and better pursue your mission, right? Whatever mission that is at the organization. So when a business is going to open their doors to somebody, in this instance, they want somebody they can trust, obviously, and they want somebody that's got a little bit of a proven track record. And that's one of the things we look at the Better Business Bureau a lot of times is what's the track record in the marketplace? That's the reason a business has to be around for at least 6 months before they can even apply for accreditation, because we've got to have a little bit of background to look at and say, are you doing the right thing or not? So I think you're checking all those boxes. You've been around a long time. You've done these things. You're somebody that can be trusted. Obviously, you support your local community. You're accredited. You're part of the Better Business Bureau as a board member as well. You're providing great services. And, I think, how can people get in touch with you? If they want to find out more information, how would you prefer them to reach out to you? What's the best way for them to approach that?
Well, they can go to my website, www.BetsyRichard, for those of you out of town, .com. And I think that what speaks the loudest are the testimonials on my website and the clients of the month.
There you go.
Because you can see the work that I've done with many of the clients. Some don't want to put it out there, and that's fine. But you can also read what everybody else has said about the work with me. And so they can go to my website. They can also, on the website, they can call me. They can go to my LinkedIn, Instagram, whatever is best for them, they can reach out.
Good. So, with that being said, you're available to take on new clients, meet with people, see if you're able. And that's one of the things I thought was neat from what you first mentioned, to see if you're able to help. What are your needs if I'm able to help? You're not necessarily able. It's not necessarily applicable for every single business out there.
I think that personalities have to match up, and so I may not be a fit for some, but it's worth getting together, and seeing if that's a fit, and then finding out more about what I do. But really, what I do is so unique. I was talking to one of my, B2B people, and she said, I don't know anybody, and I know a lot of people that do what you do, because I will get in there and do what needs to be done, not just this is the way it's done. But how can we support you in the way that you need supporting?
Right. Well, Betsy, before we wrap up this, our second episode of the Buzz on Better Business, sharing a lot about not only good businesses, but the good people behind those businesses that help support what we do in the community. We wouldn't be able to do what we do at the BBB without those good businesses, almost 1,100 of them that are accredited here, not only because they pay membership dues annually to help support us, but also because they're doing the right thing. And that's the businesses that we can hinge ourselves on the back of, saying these are the businesses doing the right thing. These are the businesses we recommend. Shop local, shop accredited as well. But before we wrap up this second episode, what's something you wanted to mention? Maybe I didn't ask about, or something you wanted to share before we wrap this up.
Well, I just want to share that I do have a passion for Lafayette and for the community. And so most of my work is done here. And I am so open to anybody just calling in and asking anything they want. Sometimes there may just be a 5 or 10 minute conversation that you need with somebody in my position. Just reach out. It may lead to something, it may not, but it may be just what you need.
Yeah. Absolutely. Good. Betsy, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for your continued support of BBB, not only as an accredited business, but as a board member. Thank you for being a part of what we're doing. Thank you for joining us on the podcast. I know it's a little bit different, right?
Yeah.
Something a little bit different. But Betsy Richard, Business Consulting, you can find all of her information online, accredited business that you can trust right here in Acadiana. I appreciate you joining us. I really hope you enjoyed the show. Thank you so much for joining us. To help support the show, please like, share, follow us on whatever podcast application, or even on YouTube, wherever you caught this episode at. If you want to find out more about the Better Business Bureau, you can contact us, 981-3497. You can find us on social media, BBB Acadiana. And as always, you can go to bbb.org for any information you're looking for. See you next time. Thank you so much for joining us.